Calvary Christian Church is now one church in 7 locations, and it's all happened within 10 years. It's been quite remarkable. We established brand new campuses in Cairns, Rockhampton and on the Gold Coast, as well as adding campuses on the Sunshine Coast, in Emerald and in Yeppoon. So now, with 7 campuses, we're about to embark on our next great adventure of faith, with our 8th campus not being here in Australia, but being in East London, South Africa.
Ever since Sarah and I decided to move to East London, the response of people has been quite interesting. Most people, when we say, yeah, we're moving to Africa, most people say, wow, like that's a pretty massive move. And truth is, for Sarah and I, it was a big decision, but it really wasn't a difficult decision, because ever since I graduated high school, all I've wanted to do is serve God and build the church. And ever since we've been married, that's what we've seen ourselves doing. And the opportunity to build a church here in South Africa is really pretty amazing. And so as soon as we saw the church and started to connect with the city, we really felt like there's a unique opportunity to do something that's not being done yet in the city. And there's 400,000 people in the city, plus about another 1 million people in the surrounding region. And so it's a pretty cool opportunity. In August last year, Pastor James started to speak with some of our campus pastors about the potential for a Calvary campus in South Africa, specifically in the city of East London. Sarah and I had always dreamed of serving God overseas, but had never really thought about South Africa. So when Pastor James began to speak about East London, I myself hadn't thought that it would be us moving to East London. We were just excited about Calvary having a new campus overseas. And so we spoke with Pastor Dave Ganetsky over the phone, that is Pastor James and I did, and we agreed to go over and have a look at the church in East London to see if it was as Pastor Dave and Bev had said it was. And we figured, at worst, we have a great weekend in South Africa and I hang out with Pastor James and it's a great weekend, or at best it could be an exciting new step forward for our church. Well, I got to East London and, having had the Sunday in church, started to get really excited about the future of the church there. Looking at it, I could see that the church there in East London can absolutely explode. And so we had done a day in church, and then I'm lying in bed jet lagged in East London, feeling God stirring me, and so I get my phone and I message Sarah and I say, hey, this is amazing, we actually really should be praying about this.
So I received the message from Dustin, and when I first got it, I totally dismissed it because I thought he was kind of joking. We'd never really spoken of moving to South Africa before. As he said, we've talked about serving God internationally, but never knew where that might land us, and so I dismissed it. Then a couple of nights later, Dustin flew in and took me out for dinner, and we had a very long discussion over dinner, and he shared with me what the potential was over there in East London, and it really stirred in my heart as well. So it sort of became quite clear that this was the next step that God had for us. And incidentally, it was just a couple of hours later that we thought, let's do a pregnancy test, and we found out that we were pregnant with Luca. So the next season of our lives was definitely shaping up for us that night.
We had never even thought about going to Africa ever in our lives, and so when James asked us, what do you think about Africa? My response was, never thought about Africa. But in my heart I knew we're going to Africa. But as a good husband I am, I had to check with my wife first before making this life commitment.
Yeah, when Ray told me in the car that we had this opportunity to go to Africa, my first response was I actually just broke down crying. And it wasn't because I was sad about leaving Australia or moving anywhere. It was actually because I had a real peace about it from God instantly the moment that he told me.
And from that moment on, we looked at each other in the car, we're going to Africa. And that's it.
Adam and I met 9 years ago, and when I met him, he'd just left YWAM. He'd been with YWAM for 9 years, and we were just both really passionate for missions and wanted to do missions. And so we moved to Townsville, and we moved just for a year. We said we'll get married, spend 12 months with the family, and then we'll go back. And we ended up coming to Calvary and falling in love with all things Calvary and Pastor James and Sam's vision and how they did church. And we got to the point where we decided that if ever we planted a church, we wouldn't do anything differently to how we saw Calvary. And so we went to Pastor James and we said, we love missions and we love Calvary. How do we put these two together?
Pastor James asked us to do Bible college, and we do Bible college and just get involved in the church. And I remember like first involvement that I have with Calvary is helping out with setup and pack-up team and just loving it and just enjoy the vision and the experience that we have at Calvary.
So it wasn't really even a decision to make the choice to go, because we're sitting in Pastor James's lounge room and he mentioned about South Africa and said, who's interested? And of course we shot our hand up.
From a young age, God called me to build his church in Africa and to love his people like he does. And last year, South Africa came on the radar. And in my heart, I knew that God had spoken to me about these two things, Africa and people. So now, after praying for 20 years for this Africa dream to happen, it's finally coming and I'm so excited.
One of the great things about multi-campus church is that we're starting in a new country, in a new continent, but Sarah and I are not on our own. We're still very much part of the Calvary family, in close relationship with Pastor James and Sam, and so we're able to start in a brand new city, but from a position of great strength. And just one of the cool things about starting in East London is we're able to take a whole lot of great team from a number of Calvary campuses who are going to be coming with us to start in East London. I look at the team that are coming with us, and you can see the hand of God at work in people's lives. I mean, Tahila, I think, was 5 years of age when she had a dream in a Sunday school, or God spoke to her in a Sunday school class about serving God in Africa, and 20 years on, she's fulfilling that dream. Lauren and Adam Kevu have always felt the call of God to missions and serving God overseas, and Lauren particularly serving God in Africa, and they never knew how it would happen with Calvary, and now it's happening with Calvary. Ray and Jess Bartram, well, let's be honest, they never thought about Africa, but they got asked and straight away felt the peace of God and the call of God, and are going to just revolutionise praise and worship in that church in East London. And so we're really encouraged by the fact that we're not just flying by the seat of our pants, and it's not just like this has been on the radar for 6 months. When you look back at the individual stories, you can actually see that God's hand has been at work in each team member's life for decades leading up to now, which means we go to East London with a great sense of expectation that God's got a plan, God's brought the right people together, and that just causes us to go with the wind at our back, knowing God's with us, and we've got a whole church in Australia backing us that we're in relationship with. To me, that's a very exciting possibility for the future. One of the passages we really felt God speak to us out of was the story in the Gospels of Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. And a colt needs to be released for Jesus to ride in on. And the people ask, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And Jesus' response is, well, the Lord has need of it. And it's funny, some people have said that actually verbatim when we say we're moving to East London. People say, why are you doing that? And we really feel that God has great need of a church like ours in a city like East London that's just teeming with young adults. And so to build the kind of church that can really connect with young adults, there's a great need for it. And so there's an opportunity to do something pretty unique in the city of East London.
One thing we're incredibly passionate about as a couple is music and worship, and the opportunity to be able to take what God's doing in our church here in Australia and be able to take that over to Africa and see a mighty move of God. That's what gets us really excited about the move, because nothing speaks more to the heart than worship.
I can't wait to get to South Africa and work with the team there, to work with people who are passionate to disciple children. I pray eventually that we will have worked and influenced millions of children in Africa, and that I believe that children of every nation are the leaders of tomorrow. And so if we disciple these children, that one day as adults they'll be influential leaders in their nation, and I can't wait to get there and start working with the team.
I'm really excited about Calvary South Africa, just to see people getting involved and experience the calling that God has for their lives. For example, like for myself, involving in host. I remember the day that I part of host team and people coming in and feel like Calvary is home. And I believe that my role in South Africa will do the same thing in the life of the people there. And I believe that God is calling us into South Africa, not only East London, but for the whole continent. And I can't wait for what God is going to do in South Africa. And I'm so glad that Lauren and myself and the kids are part of what God is doing in South Africa.
I'm excited to get to Africa and to land and meet everybody there, and then bringing the Red Frogs over, meeting all the university students, getting to know everybody and building relationships with people, and getting alongside the young adults in East London and seeing what God can do through our church in Africa.
One of the other things that we're really excited about is taking some of the initiatives from Australia and launching them immediately in East London. Things like Calvary Leadership College in 2018, we'll be doing YBL conference and also launching our Red Frogs ministry and seeing incredible impact in the universities around East London. So we're excited to see how they are able to unfold and see people's lives reached in that city.
One of the great things about starting a Calvary campus on the other side of the world in the day and age in which we live is that social media means that we can be connecting with people even now who are already telling us, hey, we can't wait for Calvary to start. When do you arrive? November can't come soon enough. Let us know when. We'll help to unpack the removalist truck. So we're taking them up on that offer. We'll sign up for Bible college. We're ready for the university ministry. And this is all before we've even arrived yet. So we really are getting the sense that East London needs a church like Calvary. And there's many, many good people who have been waiting for a church like ours to kick off. And so that's one of the reasons we feel particularly excited, not just that it's in our heart, but that it's already striking a chord in the hearts of many people in East London. That just causes all of us as a team to go knowing, all right, there's a great need and a great opportunity in that city.
Well, church, we've got an incredible opportunity ahead of us. The opportunity to affect literally tens of thousands of lives, I believe, over the next number of years in the nation of South Africa and beyond. You know, listening to the stories of Dustin and Sarah, Tahila, Ray and Jess, Adam and Lauren, and their willingness, their preparedness, their faith to go to the other side of the world and build the Church of Jesus is, to me, incredibly inspiring. And I'm sure as you've listened to them, you've been inspired too. The truth is, the church has always been built by people who are willing to go. But how can people go unless there are others who, though not going, are prepared to give? And so at Calvary Church, there's really two kinds of people. There are those who go, like Dustin and Sarah and the team, and there are the rest of us who are not going, but are giving. And with those who go and those who give, working in faith together, something wonderful is established. It's pretty heroic to go to the other side of the world to build a church. But you know, it's also heroic to give generously and sacrificially that they can go. Which is more heroic, to give or to go? Well, both are heroic because both require faith. And the Bible says that God honors faith. We have an incredible opportunity to see a great step of faith take place and many lives impacted. Thank God for those who are going. And this is now our opportunity, the rest of us, to by faith, to really give and see something wonderful established in the nation of South Africa. And I'm believing in the years ahead, even beyond that.